He left a successful career on Wall Street so he could set the record straight on cable news. He did such a great job that even President Trump noticed and asked for his help. Now, he's become a champion for American nationalism and a proud spokesman for the deplorables. He's Steve Cortes, and this is the Steve Cortes Show on AM 560. The Answer.
And since it's Friday, we at times take a bit of a turn in this second hour away from politics. We're going to talk some politics in this hour, particularly later in the hour. But we like to make sure that we are well-rounded people and we don't just live and die with politics. And so we also want to talk about other pursuits, including fitness, which is on a lot of people's minds this time of year. As we head into Christmas time, it's not a normal Christmas. Of course, very little is normal about 2020. It's not a normal Christmas, so you may not face some of the same temptations, probably not having a slew of Christmas parties, although I hope you are. I'm going to certainly go to as many as I can, and we're going to throw as many as we can because we believe in taking an intelligent assessment of your own risk profile, but that's another topic entirely. But regardless, for most people, it won't be as active, obviously, socially, so maybe not as many temptations to overindulge in various ways. But then again, maybe there are different temptations, and maybe sitting around on your couch too much, if you're not leaving your house nearly as much as you used to, brings its own set of temptations and challenges. So to talk about all this, I'm really happy to welcome back to the show Andy Pataki. He is a friend of mine.
Steve, how we doing? Thanks for having me back on. And I know for a fact that, your fans
Andy,
love
go
listening
ahead.
to you, but after about an hour or so, they need a breath of fresh air, and that's why I'm here. I am that breath of fresh air. So thanks for having me on.
Okay, you're welcome. So listen, by way of background, Andy has been on before. By way of bio, he is a fitness trainer. He is certified in CrossFit, among other disciplines. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, where he played football and ran track. Pretty impressive. He was a football star at Mount Carmel High School on the south side of the city. So, Andy, I just said a lot of nice things about you. Now I'm going to say something not so nice. When I first met you, you insisted on being called coach, okay? And, folks, I met Andy Pataki at a gym at the time, a CrossFit gym. And he was supposedly our military doesn't believe in torture, but I think they do because Andy learned how to torture people clearly at West Point, and he used it on business people like me, unsuspecting, innocent people at his CrossFit gym. And he insisted on being called coach. And Andy, you were not a coach, at least at that time. And one of the reasons you weren't a coach, one is you never wore bike shorts.
Here we go.
But the other thing is you didn't have a stinking whistle. How can you be a coach without a whistle?
Yeah. I had a clipboard, Steve, and I feel like I was meeting you halfway in that requirement. But the real reason I wanted you, in particular, to call me coach is when it comes to lifting weights, you have a lot to learn. So I just figured calling me coach and make it simple, we'd be able to identify the roles and go from there. Now, and it's funny when you say I did learn torture at the United States Military Academy. In fact, the strength coach who taught me the most, we nicknamed him Satan. So that's where I got a lot of my moves from.
You learned from Satan himself. That is funny. Did you really called him Satan? He was that tough and mean?
He was actually a genuinely nice guy, but he was, 6'6", about 270 and maybe about 5% body fat. His name is Scott Swanson. He's still at the United States Military Academy. In fact, the Army-Navy game, which will be next weekend, I always watch that game, but I typically see him on the sidelines there. So
nice.
I do owe a lot. There's a nice shout out to Scott Swanson. He's a good man.
Good to hear. Well, hey, I'm glad that a stud like that is training our future warriors. That's pretty cool. Now, by the way, I'm going to really take offense at you criticizing my weightlifting because, look, my cardio, I will be the very first to admit, my cardio sucks. All right, but my weightlifting is stellar, especially for a guy my age. I can lift a freaking house, and you know that's true, and you know it's true because on your record boards in the box, which is what CrossFit gyms are called, in that box where I first met you, my name was etched, should be in stone. I think it was in chalk, but my name was etched on that wall on quite a few records, and I was beating guys way younger than me in lifting. Now, I'm pathetic in cardio, but I rock at lifting. Are you going to contest that on the air here on my show?
I promised in 2021 that I would turn a new leaf and be more positive, but since it is still 2020, the only thing I can say about you setting all those records at my gym is it's the equivalent of being the tallest midget. You really did not have much competition. Lots of lawyers and bankers and accountants. And, you stood apart from them. I will give you that. But, there's no glory in being a high scorer on the B team.
Oh, boy. Okay. You know what? I'm going to make sure that all the people from that gym, from that box, know that that's what you said about them, that they're the B team and that they are the fitness equivalent of midgets, and that I was just the tallest man.
Luckily for me, I'm on the greener pasture, so I'm okay being completely honest with everybody. But Steve, you know what? Like I said, I'm sure you're glad that I'm back, and I'm glad to be here. It really sharpens my sarcasm game anytime you and I have a conversation.
Right. Now, speaking of sarcasm, when you left the military, when you left the world of fitness, well, I shouldn't say left the world of fitness, but I guess while you were doing the world of fitness, you're also stand-up comic, correct? And are you still doing it?
No, it is true. I did attempt to do stand-up comedy for full-time. I should have made the leap to New York or L.A. because when it comes to opportunities in Chicago, they are limited. But I was a regular at Zanies. Yeah. And this was before a lot of the other comedy clubs popped up. But no, I'm not professionally doing it, but I am still really, really funny. I just don't get paid anymore.
Right, obviously. Okay, so listen, fitness. You're no longer in the CrossFit box. Obviously, I'm sure you still use some of the techniques, so on and so forth. And what are you doing now? I think you're doing sort of bespoke fitness, right? Kind of your own boutique, correct?
Yeah, so, considering the pandemic, obviously a lot of the dynamics have changed. And instead of having like a class size of anywhere between like 8 to 12 people, I now do one-on-one personal training and small group training out in the River Forest. Established my own little gym. It's actually a nice, it's a nice bay within the side of the building on the corner of Lathrop and Central, if you're familiar with beautiful River Forest, Illinois. And just been training private clients there. It's been going well.
Okay, and how about online? Because I know the last time you were on, you were just sort of getting your online business going. Is that still successful? Is it working well for clients, working well for you?
I don't want to say I have the touch of gold, Steve, but of course, anything I put my hands on, of course it's still successful. I'm sure that was a rhetorical question. Online training is going fantastic, and especially this time of year. Although I feel like this time of year, people kind of wait until the new year before they hire a personal trainer. But still doing the personal training online and still teaching classes via Zoom 10 times a week. So those are available.
Andy Pataki, fitness professional. I guess you're going to make me just completely tee this up. I have to just spoon feed this to you. What's your website and where should people go if they want to online train with you, Andy Pataki?
It's the craziest thing, Steve. But being Coach Potts, I started my own website, CoachPotts.com. Don't pretend like you don't check back there often and look at my pictures. The website is CoachPotts.com. You can hit me up, Andy@CoachPotts.com. I'm pretty good with social media, so check me out at Coach Potts, the #1 on Instagram and on Facebook. So
and easily able to be easily found. Coach Potts with 2 T's.
Yes.
Okay.
2 T's. The second T stands for terrific, because I'm a terrific coach. Go ahead.
All right. By the way, you did really coach, though. Now, let's talk about this, right? Even though you were a fake coach when I first met you, you then did coach high school football here in the city of Chicago.
I did really coach.
As did I.
Yes.
And I went to one of your games, actually, and, was in the stands and watching. I honestly, I think you're a heck of a coach. Obviously, no season this fall. Who knows what's going to happen in the spring? Supposedly, going to be high school football. I honestly highly, highly doubt it. But I want to hear you. Number one, your thoughts. Is there going to be a spring high school season? But then also just more broadly, tell us about the experience of coaching high school football.
Just some of these schools, and the smaller private schools really hinge, enrollment on athletics. And, being a, product of the private schools yourself, I'm sure you understand how important athletics is. I don't think anyone wants to see a season go away completely. I do believe there will be some games played in the spring, some sort of abbreviated schedule, some sort of something so colleges can see tape on these kids. Because, their future, their livelihood is, it could be where they decide to go to college kind of hinges on their performance on the athletic field in some cases. So, yes, I do believe so. From what I understand, St. Rita, Mount Carmel, and Homewood Flossmoor are supposed to have phenomenal teams. And very, very low on that list, if on the list at all, would be Marian Catholic, though I haven't heard anything. Have you?
You're trying to pick on my high school. I understand. When I was there...
As we like to refer to you, the other MC.
No, the real MC. The real MC, Marian Catholic. When I was there, Marian was a heck of a football program. Not so much anymore. Very good at basketball. Now it's kind of flipped. We used to stink at basketball, be amazing at football. And they've kind of inverted now. But I'll be the first to admit, over time, over decades, yeah, of course Mount Carmel's been better. They've been, in terms of football, they've been the real MC compared to Marian Catholic. And I'm admitting that right here to you, Andy, in front of the world. I'm sure we have lots of Catholic League fans and alums out there listening. But what about two more broad? Well, actually, let's save it to the next segment because we're almost out of time for this segment. I do want to hear your thoughts on coaching high school football and just the game of high school football more broadly. And then I also want to get concrete with advice for people out there, whatever their stage in life, whether it's young people who want to be super fit or middle-aged to older folks who just don't want to get out of shape. We want to get some specific advice from Coach Potts here into the holiday season. Don't wait till the new year to make your fitness goals. Let's start working on them now. In December, we're going to talk a little football, and then we're going to talk fitness with Coach Andy Pataki coming up. We're back with fitness instructor Andy Pataki, who is a friend of mine, has a thriving online fitness business as well as a bespoke one-on-one in-person fitness business. I first met him when he was a CrossFit instructor at the box where I started working out, and he was basically a torturer of a lot of folks there, including me, but I also think he really, really knows what he's talking about when it comes to fitness, and he's a very fit, strong guy himself. An accomplished athlete who played football and ran track at the United States Military Academy at West Point after a stellar career as a quarterback at Mount Carmel High School. So, Andy, I used to go...
Steve, I hate to correct you on your own show, but you referred to me as a fitness instructor, and my preferred title is expert fitness professional.
Gosh.
But please.
You're really pushing it. If you were in studio, we'd be fighting right now. And by the way, it wouldn't work out well for you.
I've been hitting the heavy bag, Steve. I actually named my heavy bag in my new gym Cortes, and when I get angry, I just go to town on it.
Speaking of heavy bags, it's my show. Speaking of heavy bags, I used to go. I don't think I've ever said shush in the microphone yet in the Steve Cortes show. So that's a first. So shh. Speaking of heavy bags, in all seriousness, so I used to go to a city park district gym at least once a week. Try to go twice a week. Great place, like any good boxing gym. You felt like you're walking in the 1930s. Okay, old, smelly, hot gym full of a lot of guys working hard, mostly young, mostly Hispanic crowd, a lot of people I've known for years. It's been closed almost the entire year. It's been closed since February. This is a young crowd. These are people who are not vulnerable to the dire effects of the virus. I think this is an absolute disservice, and I can understand in the early days when we didn't know much about the virus, right? But to allow young, healthy people, the very definition of young, healthy people, most of these are people in their late teens, early 20s, who want to work out hard, who are extremely healthy. If they want to make a decision that they want to work out, and in boxing, as long as you're not sparring, you can be totally distanced if that matters. You can. There's enough space. You don't have a bag right next to a heavy bag, obviously. I think it's insane that these facilities are not open. I think it's really terrible for the mental and physical health of the city, particularly in this case of this boxing gym, because it's a public participant thing. It's close to free. I think it's a particular disservice to people who can't afford, upscale gyms or one-on-one training. Your thoughts as a fitness professional, Andy?
I think one of the first things, during this whole quarantine to go is health, because everyone kind of treated it like a really long snow day where they're just drinking and eating whatever and sleeping late and, wearing their quote unquote pajamas to work because all they're doing is online meetings anyway. The gyms should be open, but as you know, Steve, it only takes a couple bad apples to ruin it for everybody. So if there are certain guidelines in place, certain precautions, if they're wiping down equipment, I don't even know about the face mask necessarily, but if you're, at a good social distance, I think that would be enough, but it only takes one gym or even one member of a good gym to kind of ruin it for everyone else. So
right, let me ask you about
everyone's
the masks.
Taking these.
So, because I have been going to a gym, just basically one of these chain gyms, right? Lately, thankfully it's open, but you have to wear a mask, and I find it honestly really just kind of debilitating to try to work out with a freaking mask on. I mean,
it is, but it's kind of funny because UFC fighters typically. It was one of those like gimmicky training things that they would put one of those face masks on because they thought it would help their oxygen uptake. Mm-hmm. So now that everyone's required to wear one, it's kind of like when they tell you should always go running with a partner so you can have a conversation. So it's like twice the workout. In fact, you get a better workout with a face mask on.
Okay, I mean, I can understand that, but it's still incredibly annoying. You have to admit, right? I mean,
you know what? I have my own gym, so I don't work out with a face mask on. Right. I can only imagine what it's like. But yeah, let's just get through these days. Let's, and then after that, we can ditch the face mask and go back to the way things were, hopefully. That's my big thing.
Okay, so listen, let's get some advice for the folks out there, for the audience, right? So a lot of people, like I said, even if they're not going to a ton of Christmas parties, this Christmas being very different from others, even, it's not going to be like Christmas of 2019. As you mentioned, a lot of people sitting on their couch probably a lot more than they used to, a lot more Netflix, a lot more takeout dinners, a lot of excuses to drink too much on your couch, whatever. Okay, a lot of temptations to be unhealthy in a lot of ways. So what is your advice for folks folks, and let's really try to be concrete about this. So first of all, let's say if somebody does want to join the gym, if they have the money and the capacity to get to a gym, they don't mind wearing the face mask, they want to be out of the house and working out. What should they look for? How do they choose which gym to join?
I mean, these days, we're talking about during pandemic, during all the restrictions, make sure that the gym is adhering to all the guidelines. So if you walk to a gym and it's 10 dudes in close quarters, breathing on each other and stuff, probably not the gym for you because they obviously don't care about the safety of the patrons. So one thing I would look for is just cleanliness overall. Check out the locker rooms. One of the things that I went to, I'm not going to name their name, but I went to a global chain gym and they handed me a towel and it was wet. No, thank you. Handed it right back, walked right out. So just overall cleanliness. And then, if the first person, who's trying to sell you a membership sounds like a car salesman, there's a good chance they're getting paid on commission and they could care less.
There is a lot of that at the chains, unfortunately. It's too bad. And how about if you're not going to the chain center? For somebody who has the capacity, the money to spend, the motivation can do it to get actual one-on-one training, which of course is preferable. If they're not going to you, Coach Potts, what should they look for in a trainer for one-on-one? Or small group?
Someone that's been trained by me or at least ascribes to my ideology, obviously.
They have to be from the coaching tree of Coach Potts?
It's like a coaching tree,
right.
How, Matt Nagy.
All right, outside of that.
Okay. I look for, there's some credentials that are pretty normal into the fitness world. So like ACE, NASM, CSCS. These are some of the more widely recognized ones. And those tests, I know, for a fact that, not everyone passes those tests the first time around. So it's not like going online and getting what would be considered a CPT, Certified Personal Trainer exam, which you could take that today and pass and be a certified personal trainer. So look for credentials, look for, experience in the sense that if you want to learn how to box, go to somebody who instructs boxing, not somebody who just lifts weights. Or if you're looking for weight loss, go to somebody who specializes in that. Don't just show up to a general health, fitness professional and expect to achieve your goals. Look for someone who kind of niches down. That's kind of the thing that we're telling people in the fitness world now is that you should kind of niche down because you're going to have more clients that way.
Okay, understood. Specialize, yeah. Okay, now how about the diet side of things? Because, again, probably with people staying home, temptations to eat too much, maybe to drink too much. What should people watch out for? What can they concretely do into Christmas, into the new year, so that they don't, so that their diet doesn't ruin their fitness, or at least I shouldn't say ruin, maybe it's too strong a word, but harm their fitness?
There's a couple things that you kind of just look for, but, eat until you're almost full, not too much, mostly fruits and vegetables. I think that's a phenomenal mantra to believe in and try and follow. Try to make your own meals. Hey, takeout is beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I'll do it maybe once every other week or so. But if you're doing it 3, 4, or 5 times a week, there's a good chance you're probably eating too many calories without even realizing it. That food tastes great, but it's just not good for you because it's usually pretty calorie dense.
Sure.
So cooking your own meals, trying to stick with the healthy, whole foods. I think a phenomenal rule, too, is if it has a nutrition label or if it has a barcode on it, you probably shouldn't be eating it. For instance, when I go to the store and I buy a banana, it doesn't have a barcode on it. Yeah. It's a banana. I know it's in a banana. So,
right. Things like whole that. Foods versus processed foods, that whole sort of split.
Yeah, for sure. Think
right,
of
listen,
those foods as being your
this is good advice. We only have about 30 seconds left.
Cooking yourself.
I want to challenge you right now, okay, because of the insult you've thrown my way. Speaking of throwing, let's spar. Let's box, okay? I'm way older than you.
First of all, Steve,
I'm way older than you, and I'm a talk show host. I'm a middle-aged talk show host. You're a fitness instructor. Why don't we box, and we'll talk about it next time we come back on the show. Deal?
You know what? I'm okay with that. But the problem is you throw haymakers. I'm more for the sport, the fitness, getting out, the socialization. You want to hurt somebody, Steve, and that's not what sports is about.
So
it really
is. Yes?
But it's a soft yes.
Soft yes.
Under certain conditions.
Soft yes from a soft man. All right, listen. You are not a soft man.
You might have to do like a Mike
we got to run. We got to run. I'm talking about, I know, man, you admire, which I do as well, which is Lou Holtz up next. But Andy Pataki, Coach Potts, I appreciate it, and you have a very Merry Christmas, sir.
Thank you, sir. Go Irish, go Army. And Steve, enjoy yourself. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Up next, Coach Holtz.